Hello, I'm Laura Harris from the Scripps television station in Tampa. During the 2016 political cycle, Scripps produced more original reporting, more interviews with candidates, and more fact checks than at any time in our company's history. In the 45 days leading up to the election, all of our stations committed to airing at least 100 minutes each week of political coverage on the air. That's more than 256 hours of broadcast time in our local markets. In the summer of 2015, we partnered with PolitiFact. That's the nation's leading political fact-checking organization. Starting in 2015 and through Election Day, we produced more than 150 national fact checks of the presidential candidates in both a weekly segment distributed to all of our markets and individual fact checks from the primary and general election debates. And Scripps stations hired fact checkers as we established PolitiFact state affiliates in Ohio, Nevada, Colorado, as well as Arizona. From ballot measures and local legislative races to the presidential campaign, those fact checkers produced more than 160 fact checks featured on broadcast and with in-depth digital reports on our station websites and our apps. Our team of national correspondents traveled the country providing reports from D.C. and the battleground states, highlighting issues that were bubbling up in certain areas and engaging the candidates as Scripps produced The Race. It was a weekly half-hour national political show for all of our stations in the months leading up to that election. And every one of our station websites carried stories from Newsy, our digital news organization that focuses on breaking down the biggest stories and going deeper on explaining the issues. Our websites also featured stories and podcasts from Decode DC, produced by the Scripps Washington Bureau. Decode DC helps Americans understand how crucial political issues affect their everyday lives. From newscasts to websites, apps, and podcasts, we gave the people in our markets more choices and more opportunities to engage the political process than ever before.
Right now, from Milwaukee, this is today's TMJ4, live at 10.
New at 10, the countdown is on. We are 1 week away from Election Day, and candidates are flooding the Badger State. The Clinton camp in Madison today, while Donald Trump spoke in Eau Claire, and he keeps talking about election fraud.
Including people dead for years who somehow managed to vote come Election Day.
But is that an urban legend or something that actually happened here in Wisconsin? Well, the I-Team has been digging into this for weeks.
Steve Shamraz is here now with what he's uncovered. Steve.
Guys, we looked at hundreds of thousands of Wisconsin voter records. We spent dozens of hours searching through other documents to see if the claim of zombie voters could be backed up by the facts. Donald Trump's top supporters say it is a fact.
We need some truth. We need truth.
Dead people, they claim, cast ballots on Election Day.
People that have died 10 years ago are still voting.
But how does the claim of a candidate square with Wisconsin reality?
It's just not happening in the United States right now.
Richard Hassan is a professor at University of California Irvine School of Law and one of the nation's leading election law experts. He's the man behind the Election Law blog and has heard all that talk about dead voters.
What looks like fraud to someone who's lazy is actually just either administrative error or just poor record keeping and not some vast conspiracy to rig the election.
It takes a bit of work, but the claims of Donald Trump and Professor Hassan can be checked out. So that's what we did. The I-Team looked at 2012 voting records from Brown, Milwaukee, and Waukesha counties. That is a total of 828,684 people who cast a ballot in that year's presidential election. Using their first, middle, and last names, plus their zip codes, we compared voter records with death records from the Social Security Administration. What did we find? 362 cases where the first, middle, and last name plus the zip code matched. So that proves it, right? No. It means our work is just beginning. For example, voter records show a woman named Jane E. Camillo from zip code 53217 died on New Year's Day 1998. But Jane E. Camillo from the same zip code voted 7 times since 2012. We had to figure out why. Are you the Jane Camillo?
Yes.
We found the Jane E. Camillo, who's been voting all these years, at her home in Bayside. Her appearance on this list is pure coincidence, as she has the same first and middle names as her husband's first wife, who, you guessed it, passed away in 1998.
Thank goodness somebody's paying attention, you know, with corruption and voter fraud and everything. This made me actually very happy that I was caught in the loop.
In every one of the 362 potential matches, public records gave us similar explanations. Relatives shared the same name, or there was a common name in the same neighborhood, but no sign of voter fraud. That's no surprise to the man in charge of Wisconsin elections.
The possibility of a dead person casting a ballot in Wisconsin is what?
I think a very minuscule chance that would happen.
He says that's because the state purges the registrations of dead voters every month.
These thieves and crooks.
As Donald Trump continues to talk about a stolen election, Rick Hasen says calm down. Rumors of an election day zombie apocalypse are greatly exaggerated.
Proving bureaucratic incompetence, that's pretty easy to do. Proving dead voters voting, not going to happen.
Let's just make this clear. We can't conclude no dead people voted in Wisconsin's 2012 presidential election, but using our limited but very large sample, we just found zero evidence that they did, and we spent a lot of money and a lot of time trying to find them.
Dennis, thank you. Now to Democracy 2016 tonight, and we're following the money in politics that's often kept secret. It's called dark money, and it's funding the political attack ads that are trying to influence your vote. I spent the day today digging through these finance records, and I found out which Florida candidate has the most dark money attacking his campaign and which dark money big spender has a Tampa Bay connection. Dark money groups are pouring millions into campaigns without reporting where it came from. And it's all perfectly legal. Political nonprofits are not required to disclose their donors.
Who would embellish a resume intentionally?
According to the Center for Responsive Politics, Patrick Murphy is the top target of dark money in Florida.
America's least effective congressman.
The conservative nonprofit American Future Fund paid for this ad questioning his resume. It's the most aired political ad in Tampa, 384 times since July. They've spent $1.9 million attacking Murphy, more than any other candidate.
From Action 3 News, this is your Campaign 2016 report.
The Tecumseh State Correctional Facility is home to murderers. Some are there for life. Others sentenced to pay for their deadly crimes with their lives. Their heinous crimes carry the harshest penalty. Good evening. I'm Craig DeGrelli.
And I'm Jennifer Griswold. Tuesday, you will vote and decide whether Nebraska should continue to have a death penalty. Tonight, you'll hear how we got to this point, who's making the argument to keep the death penalty and to get rid of it.
To be clear, this is not a debate tonight. It's an opportunity for each side to present their case. We have leaders from Nebraskans for the death penalty and Retain a Just Nebraska.
But you'll also hear from two women affected by murder. Their loved one's killer sentenced to die, but each has her own view on the death penalty.
A vote in 2015 by state senators eliminated the death penalty. And your vote on Tuesday will either keep that ban or reinstate capital punishment.
It's your voice, your vote. What do marijuana and spiking rent prices have in common? Well, more than you might think. I went to Colorado to see the after effects of legal pot there and discovered if Prop 64 passes here, it could get even harder to find a home or an apartment you can afford.
Just drive through Denver and you get the impression this city is thriving. Growth is everywhere. Many would say that's due to the green rush. Booming industry that is legal marijuana.
Well, I have inhaled.
That's Bob Costello. He's a realtor for 420 Realty. Get it?
Well, 420 is the magic code word for smoking pot.
Bob gets it. When marijuana was legalized here in 2012, he was one of the first to jump on the bandwagon.
And I became kind of an expert in the grow warehouse industry.
Bob helped broker and built several of the legal marijuana grow warehouses, much like this one we visited that helped drive Denver out of the recession. But he also owns several rental houses And he says legal marijuana has had a major impact on the housing industry, where the state allows up to 6 plants to be grown in a single home.
13 Action News political analyst John Ralston, part of our team following the latest developments on the proposed NFL stadium for Las Vegas. He's back with some more information from our exclusive 13 Action News Rasmussen poll on stadium support. And John, earlier we reported that a slight majority are against using a room tax hike to pay for it. So the question is, will state lawmakers perhaps vote in favor of this at their own peril?
Yeah, they might be, Steve. 52-34 were opposed to using the room tax money. We asked another question, though. Are you more likely or less likely to vote for a state legislator who approves that $750 million in new Las Vegas hotel room taxes for the stadium? Look at the results. 20% would be more likely, 38% less likely, 36% say it will have no impact on their voting decision, 6% are not sure. One more interesting number put out there. People who were polled in Clark, Washoe, and in the rural counties of Nevada are also against raising the tax to fund the stadium. 50% disapproving in Clark. Look at those numbers. 52% in Washoe. 64%, Steve, in the rurals are against raising the hotel tax in Las Vegas.
Well, that's interesting, because you could argue they don't really have a dog in the fight. So what's the difference one way or the other?
Rural Nevada, very, very conservative, very anti-tax. And I guess they're looking at this as a tax issue, right? You should not raise taxes to pay for a stadium.
With the Iowa caucus in their rear view and New Hampshire in their sights, Democrats and Republicans are readying for round 2. Starting this week and all the way until Election Day in November, we are teaming up with PolitiFact, the nation's leading political fact-checking group, holding politicians accountable for the things they say on the campaign trail and in their TV ads.
Attack ads and strange-sounding claims. Would Donald Trump appoint his own sister to the U.S. Supreme Court? And was Trump in favor of impeaching George W. Bush? We teamed up with PolitiFact to check those on the Truth-O-Meter.
Hillary Clinton is slamming Bernie Sanders on climate change, and Donald Trump taking aim at one of his protesters.
This week, PolitiFact put them both to the test on the Truth-O-Meter.
We're partnering with PolitiFact to fact-check speakers at the DNC. Last night's keynote speaker, of course, former President Bill Clinton, calling his wife the best change maker he's ever known.
He said Hillary Clinton was key to getting the Children's Health Care Act passed by Congress when she was First Lady.
On the campaign trail, Donald Trump claims this fall's debate schedule is rigged against him, and Hillary Clinton says the FBI investigation into her email scandal proves she wasn't lying to the American public. Two claims PolitiFact and I are putting through this week's Truth-O-Meter.
Director Comey said that my answers were truthful, and what I've said is consistent with what I have told the American people.
Hillary Clinton's still taking heat for the email scandal that concluded with a less than flattering FBI investigation. But when Clinton this week told Fox News, the FBI's director said she was truthful when she told the American people she never sent classified information from her personal email, PolitiFact found
she put words in the mouth of the FBI director saying that he called her statements truthful. He never said that. And so I think we need to be very clear about that.
Clinton repeatedly said she did not have any classified information in her emails. After the federal investigation, FBI Director Comey said she did. Misrepresenting the FBI's findings gets Clinton PolitiFact's worst rating of pants on fire. Donald Trump taking to Twitter to voice his displeasure when the dates for this fall's general election debates were announced. Trump saying, quote, as usual, Hillary and the Democrats are trying to rig the debates, so two are up against major NFL games, end quote. Trump referring to the final two debates that will go head-to-head with the nationally televised Monday night and Sunday night NFL games.
Donald Trump's claim that this is rigged, somehow for the benefit of Hillary Clinton, just doesn't stand up to any scrutiny.
PolitiFact finding out a bipartisan commission that has no connection to either campaigns or the parties sets the debate schedule. In fact, the dates were chosen 7 months before the NFL schedule was even released, giving Trump's claim of a rigged system against him as pants on fire.
And the debates tend to run into scheduling issues. The final debate in 2012 between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama went head-to-head with Monday Night Football and Game 7 of the Major League Baseball playoffs.
Democracy 2016 now takes us back to the 4th of July. McCain's Senate challenger, Kelly Ward, claims he was in Pakistan for the wrong reasons. While fireworks lit up our nation, abroad, Ward claimed McCain's holiday weekend trip to Pakistan was to sell F-16 fighter jets to the folks who harbored Osama bin Laden. PolitiFact put this claim through a truth check and found McCain was in Pakistan and did talk about the weapons, but the senator told Pakistani officials the U.S. will not fund F-16s until Pakistan fights terrorism better. Congress continues to oppose the sale, and there is no proof Pakistan ever harbored bin Laden, who was shot and killed there in 2011. So PolitiFact rated Ward's claim as false. To see the full research, visit abc15.com.
It's a claim that's caught a lot of people's attention. Does one Nevada Republican really want to ban abortions for victims of rape and incest? Well, that's what Democratic House candidate Jackie Rosen says about her opponent, Danny Tarkanian. Well, Action News anchor Todd Quinones takes this claim through the PolitiFact Truthometer.
At a recent campaign event, candidate Jackie Rosen went on the attack, saying that Danny Tarkanian wants to defund Planned Parenthood and would outlaw a woman's right to choose, even in cases of rape or incest. Well, PolitiFact reviewed Tarkanian's past statements and found Rosen is accurate. Tarkanian has repeatedly said that his faith as a Catholic leads him to oppose all forms of abortion unless the pregnancy threatens the life of the mother. He said this to a local radio station in June.
I've always been pro-life, and except for the actual life of the mother, and then the debate between two lives.
And Tarkanian's campaign confirmed that he would support taking away funding from Planned Parenthood. So PolitiFact rates Rosen's claim as true. But Tarkanian did say that he would support repurposing federal funding for Planned Parenthood to local community-based health centers. I'm Todd Quinones. We'll see you next time for another PolitiFact Fact Check.
He'll be in Denver in 2 days, but Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders is already in your living room.
That's right. Denver 7 political reporter Marshall Zellinger is here with a fact check of 2 brand new Sanders political ads. 'Tis the season, Marshall.
And you're going to see a lot of these over the next week. One is essentially a 1-minute biography. The other is a 30-second spot on Social Security. And as we will with all political ads, we're checking the facts that come straight to your living room.
The son of a Polish immigrant who grew up in a Brooklyn tenement.
Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders has debuted 2 political ads ahead of his weekend visit to Colorado.
For living wages, equal pay, and tuition-free public colleges.
This is all true. Sanders introduced a bill in July to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. He has supported legislation helping women fight pay discrimination. And he sponsored a bill to have the feds and states offer $70 billion to help create tuition-free colleges with taxes on Wall Street investments to offset some of the costs.
In the middle of a time when senior poverty is increasing, Republicans and some Democrats came up with a brilliant idea for cutting cost of living adjustments for Social Security. We said it will be over our dead bodies if you cut Social Security.
This is mostly true. Mostly because Denver 7 has yet to find where Sanders stood up and said, over our dead bodies. But what he's getting at is true. The orange line represents senior poverty. In 2011, it was 8.7%. In 2014, it's 10%, meaning 1 out of every 10 people, 65 or older, is living below the poverty line. Today, the poverty level is just shy of $12,000 for one person, $16,000 for a couple. He even has this bill that he introduced 11 months ago to expand Social Security, but it has not even been heard by a committee.
We are now going to transition to the second part of our debate, where we take questions from the audience. These questions were submitted by audience members and vetted by the City Club and the media partners to avoid duplication. They have not been shared with the candidates. And if you are following us on Twitter tonight, we will be taking one question via Twitter at #CityClub. I'm going to say that again, #CityClub, so you can tweet your question. But right now we're going to go to our first audience question. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Tahir Sanji, and my question is on foreign policy. With ISIS currently losing significant territory in Iraq, what do each of you see as potential solutions to help with the long-term dismantling of fundamentalist teachings that have led to the creation of ISIS?
This is for you, Governor Strickland.
Thank you for that question. And as I said earlier, Syria is a very complicated, complex problem. I do think we're not doing enough. I think we have to do 3 things much more effectively.
Congressman Brad Ashford. Retired General Don Bacon. The second Congressional District Debate, presented by the Omaha World Herald and KMTV Action 3 News.
Next question, gentlemen. Russian hacking has come up at the national level with claims the nation is trying to influence this country's elections. How should America defend itself going forward against the foreign cyber attacks? We start off with Mr. Ashford.
Thank you. First of all, we've had a cyber command, but we haven't had the cyber force that we're standing up now. By 2018, we will have approximately 6,200 new cyber warriors under the cyber command force. I think we need cyber command needs to be a separate combatant command, in my view. Now it's under STRATCOM. I think it ought to be a separate combatant command. We also ought to enlarge our opportunity for working with the private sector and bring expertise from Silicon Valley and, quite frankly, from right here in Omaha to help with the cyber fight. I had an opportunity to talk to the CEO of Mutual of Omaha a year ago or so, and we came up with this idea of lend-lease of private sector technology people that we could bring into the military to help with the cyber fight. It's an all hands on deck, private sector, military, to get to not only defend but have an offensive strategy against cyber. There's much more to be done. We've had a good start, but we need to do more.
Speaking, you have 60 seconds to answer the question.
Thank you. I was actually there during the startup of the Air Force Cyber and all the teams that were building. Russia does pose the largest threat to our cyber. China is very active, though, into our private industry, trying to take our intellectual secrets. We have other countries involved as well. I've been part of the cyber stand-up, and we need to continue investing in cyber and growing the teams. I will tell you that we've made a lot of headway with Russia and China, but we need to do more with the counterterrorism part of our cyber to understand how the Sunni insurgents are using the internet, so we have to grow that capability as well.
Do you agree that we're going to have a combination of tax hikes, essentially, payroll tax hikes, and/or benefit cuts to create solvency for Social Security that a burgeoning group of baby boomers will soon need? I'm not talking about current retirees, but near or future retirees.
He talks about the cost of living increase for people to go to Publix, for people to pay their bills. He's been on record as saying over and over and over again that we need to print more money for this, print more money for that. And he obviously, as I've said before, doesn't understand the economics of inflation, that printing more money is what drives the cost up for those people on fixed incomes.
Okay,
so
but given that, let's put the question to you as well, because you haven't answered it yet. I've outlined what the challenges are, and Republicans have kicked the can down the street as well. So how are you going to be any different on Capitol Hill unless...
So the proposal, a 1% increase to the 7.65% payroll tax on both sides, the employer-employee. I don't agree with that tax hike. I think
you don't want to see any tax hike?
I do not want to see a tax hike
Even though the experts say you're going to have that.
I believe the solution has to be economic growth. And economic growth, every 1 percentage point of economic growth is hundreds of billions of dollars to our economy.
But that's been said for the last 30, 40 years, and the trust fund's continuing to run out of money. How is that a courageous stand? How is it politics different instead of politics as usual?
Well, it's making sure that we do undertake policies that have economic growth.
The team and the NFL combined will contribute $650 million to the $1.8 billion project, and the Chargers will make a 30-year commitment to stay in San Diego. The city would raise $1.15 billion by selling bonds that would be paid for with the higher hotel taxes. Of that $1.15 billion, $350 million helps pay for the football stadium, $600 million pays for the adjoining convention center, and $200 million pays for the land. Prop C requires a 2/3 majority to pass. And joining me now are former Chargers reporter and stadium activist Dan McClellan, representing Yes on C, and San Diego City Councilman Chris Cate here on behalf of the No on C campaign. Thank you both for joining us. We want to start out, just so we lay the groundwork, with 1 minute apiece to just state your cases. So Dan, we're going to go first. Why support Prop C in 1 minute?
Welcome to The Race. I'm Mike Sachs. This weekend, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump debate for a second time. And with less than 30 days to go until the election, a lot's on the line. Hey, thanks for joining me on The Race. Some people think you have to be crazy to run for president, and that might be truer than you think. Ariel Wessler found the candidates might be a little psychopathic. Now, this might not even be on your radar. The political ads that kids see, ads talking about terrorists and criminals. We know you can't see everything the candidates said this week, so here's a little recap. Before we go, some things we'll be watching for this week.
Will Trump be able to stabilize his campaign yet again with another debate performance? Will the GOP fall into further disarray if more controversy comes out over Trump? And speaking of controversy, will any stick to Clinton? That does it for this week on The Race. I'm Mike Sachs. See you next time.
Later this evening, Iowans will be the first in the nation to cast their votes for the 2016 presidential election. But it's not that simple. It's never that simple. How these votes are cast depends on what party you're voting for. So let's start with the easier of the two, the Republicans. Tonight, GOP supporters will go to their designated caucus sites. They will hear one more time from the campaigns about why they should choose a certain candidate. Then they will actually make a selection on paper. It is as simple as that. For the Democrats, though, it is a much more complicated system. The Democrats have more of a herding cats method for making their choices. Democratic supporters show up at their caucus sites and then they stand in the corner of the room for their candidate. If my candidate doesn't get 15% support, the campaign's considered non-viable and it's dismissed. Now I have to choose a new candidate, and the people in these groups, they're trying to get me to join their side. At the end of the night, they count how many people are standing in each corner, and that determines the number of delegates each candidate gets to go to the district, county, and state conventions. Super simple, right? For the now, I'm Todd Walker.
We found for some working class voters here in Ohio, it really comes down to the candidate they feel will best protect workers. And for others, it's about the candidate they connect with.
I had an Obama sign 8 years ago, and he won.
Robert Barvis is hoping this sign brings the same result. The lifelong carpenter and union member decided to put it up for one main reason.
Hillary is pro-union.
It's a feeling Barvis says he doesn't get from Donald Trump.
The union is for higher wages. And if Donald Trump says he's for higher wages, then why is he anti-union? I mean, it just don't make sense.
Donald's gonna make it strong.
That's not what matters to longtime semi-truck driver Michael Hanna and his family.
He's not the most delicate guy, but he speaks like you and me.
For Hanna, Trump's candidness has created a connection.
But at least he tells it the way it is. With Hillary and the Democrats and stuff, they tell you what you want to hear, and, you know, that's it. But they never follow through.
This is Main Street in Yardley. It's in Bucks County, a Philadelphia suburb that tends to be a pretty good predictor of where voters will go in battleground Pennsylvania.
I'm a registered Republican, but I'm not voting for Donald Trump. I'm voting for Hillary.
Are you a registered Democrat or Republican?
Democrat.
Would you have considered voting Republican if it was a different candidate this election?
Very possibly.
I'm a registered Democrat, considering voting for Trump, but I haven't made a final decision yet.
And why is that?
Because I'm trying to decide who is the less of two evils.
House Bill 2, the so-called bathroom bill, is a contentious issue here in North Carolina, but it could have more far-reaching implications.
Matcha's green tea, yeah.
At Raleigh Raw, everyone is welcome. That's why the restaurant has these signs outside its restrooms and this sign on the front door opposing House Bill 2. The controversial law would require people to use the bathrooms in schools and government buildings in North Carolina that match the gender on their birth certificates.
I think that's hopefully motivating people to get out and vote, especially like younger people like my generation.
So you told us things you had heard about Donald Trump and campaign finance. We did some research and we're going to tell you whether that's fact or fiction. First up, part of Trump's campaign money goes to his own businesses. That's a fact. The New York Times looked at a one-month period in May where Trump campaign funds from donors big and small went to his Florida resort, went to his private airline, went to Trump Tower in Manhattan, and went to Trump restaurants. And all that money made up about 1/5 of campaign spending just in that month.
These undocumented immigrants can't vote, so instead they're rallying their community to vote.
Every time when somebody submits a ballot, by doing this, I'm voting. The feeling is amazing because, I don't have a voice my own. They are my voice.
The growing Latino population could win the Southwest for Democrats.
Hola, buenas tardes. Did you get your early voting ballot yet? I know I probably registered this year around 800 people.
Social media is creating a new kind of political divide. And when you unfriend someone over a political argument, you're making that divide even deeper. I'll explain. This is your real-life social circle. Family, friends, classmates, coworkers. Many of these people are likely from a similar background as you and have a similar worldview. But your social news feed takes that to a new level. Facebook's algorithm promotes the types of posts that you like and share, and it hides away posts that put you off or that you don't interact with.